I grabbed 2 of these 10-inch wreath forms from Dollar Tree and some fabric from Walmart. I start by cutting a piece of the fabric and I fold it in half and then fold it up onto itself until I have this shape, and then I cut about 2-inch sections. And then just take each of those sections I cut and cut the ends to make the little squares. They're about 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. I did not measure, and they don't need to all be the same size. So I cut a bunch of those, and then I'm hot gluing onto the wreath form, folding the little squares in a triangle, and then using a screwdriver to push them down into the foam on top of that hot glue. And I do this to cover the entire wreath form. And I'm doing this to both wreath forms, and I ended up needing about 3 yards of fabric. That's the first one, and the second one I'm making the squares of fabric smaller. They're about 1.5 inch or around 1 inch by 1 inch. I wanted the second wreath to be a little smaller or appear smaller, so the strips of fabric are smaller. I then do the same process on filling that one in. After I have those both done, I add some hot glue to one side of the wreaths and place them together. Take another strip of fabric to tie those both together. And then take some ribbon. This is wire ribbon and it's 2.5 inches. And I loop that around where those two wreaths connect to make it look like a scarf. And I just kept it nice and loose. And then on the tails, I cut those and then take the ends of those and cut strips on the bottom of those. Next, I want to make a little hat. So I take this plank wood piece from Dollar Tree and a giant craft stick I got from Walmart. I cut the craft stick down and sand the edges to round them. And then on 2 sides of the plank piece, I rounded those as well. I then hot glued the craft stick to the bottom that I did not round the edges on the plank wood and painted the entire thing with ink color chalk paint by Waverly. I take the same style ribbon because I wanted it to match. I didn't want to cut it because I didn't want it to fray, so I just used some tacky glue to fold that over. The hot glue, I had tried it first, but it just bled through the ribbon and it made a mess of the front. So I went with the tacky glue. I then hot glued that around the hat right above the craft stick. And then on the front side of the hat, I hot glued some greenery and a little berry. And then took another piece of the fabric and hot glued that to the back of the hat. Added some more hot glue to the hat and placed it on top of the snowman. And then tied that fabric from the hat around the snowman. And then used some more fabric and looped it around the top of the snowman to make a hanger. And that is it for this project. Thank you so much for watching.